right, everybody, welcome to Homework 5.9. So today we looked at creating perfect squares with coefficients. It was wild, I know. This first one, you're going to select all expressions that are perfect squares. So if I were to write this as a perfect square, I would write it as 3x plus 4 squared. So I want to see, does that work out, right? So 3x plus 4 times 3x plus 4, does that equal 9x squared plus 24x plus 16? 3x times 3x gives me 9x squared. That checks out. 3x times 4 gives me 12x. 4 times 3x is plus 12x. And then 4 times 4 is 16. 12x and 12x is 24. That looks good. Letter B has a 2 in front of it. So initially it doesn't seem like that is a perfect square because 2 is not a perfect square, right? But let's go ahead and factor out 2 and see if what we get here. So we would get 10x plus 50. So this is also not a perfect square. So B is not a perfect square. C would be rewritten in expanded form, 7 minus 3x, and 7 times 7 minus 3x. That's multiplying the same exact thing by itself. So that is a perfect square. D is not a perfect square. What is that called? Do you remember? That's called the difference of squares because this would be plus 20x and this would be minus 20x, right? Plus 20x minus 20x, which would be 0. So we'd only have two terms in this. So that's not a perfect square, but it is something called the difference of squares. This letter E, we can actually rewrite this as 1 minus 2x. So this is actually a perfect square. It is just written differently, right? But it is actually a perfect square. And then the last one, if I wanted to factor that, I would put 2x plus 3 over 2 times 2x plus 3 over 2. And the reason that is the square root of 9 over 4 is the square root of 9 is 3, the square root of 4 is 2. Okay, that's how I got that. And then I want to make sure that works. So if I were to multiply that through, I would get 4x squared. I would get plus 6 over 2, so plus 3x, plus another 3x is plus 6x, and then 9 over 4, so this is also a perfect square. All right, number 2 says find the missing number that makes the expression a perfect square. Next, write the expression in factored form. All right, so we want to figure out what is the number here in the middle that would make this a perfect square. So if we are going to rewrite this as a perfect square, we would write it as a 7x minus 4. I'm saying minus 4 here because I see a minus here, right? So if I were to rewrite this as 7x minus 4 times 7x minus 4, I would get minus 28x here, and then minus 28x here, which would be negative 56x. Okay? Another way that you can look at that is we know that to get this, we take the square root of a, which is 7, right? And then we divide that into our middle term. And so the square root of 16 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. And 8 times 7 is 56. So you can work backwards however you want. We know that we take the square root of a, right? And we divide b divided by 2 times the square root of a, and then we square that, right? So that can help you to figure out what this middle term is, b. So here we would take the square root of 36 is 6. The square root of 4 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 6 is 24. So let's see if that works out. If we have 6x plus 2 and 6x plus 2, and again, I'm gathering that from these two perfect squares. And so we would get 36x squared plus 12x plus 12x plus 4. So that would be, in fact, 24. All right, so again, you can do it whatever way you want. You can multiply it by 2, or you can factor it out and see what you would get, right? So if we do 2x minus 5 times 2x minus 5, remember, in order for it to be a perfect square, it has to be the same thing times the same thing, right? And then we would get 2x times 2x is 2x squared. We mostly need to worry about the middle term, so I'm going to do minus 10x. Minus 10x will be minus 20x. I can double check that. The square root of 25 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 times the square root of 4, which is 2, is 10 times 2 is 20. So that works out just fine. Let's try our next one. So we're going to do 3x here, and then it's a positive number in the middle, so I'm going to do plus 3, plus 3. Again, I'm mostly worried about our inside and outside, right? Our x term, our linear term. So 3 times 3 is 9x. 9x plus 9x, or 9x times 2 is 18x. You can take the square root of 9 is 3. The square root of this 9 is 3, so square root of 9, square root of 9. So 3 times 3 is 9, times 2 is 18. Try this one here. 121 is 11. Okay, if you don't know that, memorize it. 11 times 11 is 121. Plus 3, plus 3. Okay, so we're going to get 33, and 33 is 66. Again, we can take the square root of 9, take the square root of 121, so that's 3 times 11 is 33. 33 times 2 gives me 66. All right, number 3 says find the missing number that makes the expression a perfect square. Next, write the expression in factored form. So we want to, in this case, we're just finding the number, right? So to do that, remember, we take the square root of 9, which is going to be 3, and I'm going to put that to the side because I'm going to use it in a second. I'm going to do 42 divided by 2 gives me 21. Then I'm going to take 21 divided by my circled number, which is 3, which is going to give me 7. Now I need to square it so I have that perfect square, and that's going to be 49. So I'm going to add 49. Okay, let's look at the next one. Square root of 49 is 7. Going to hang on to that for later. Take b, negative 28, divided by 2 gives me 14, negative 14. Negative 14 divided by 7 gives me negative 2. Negative 2 squared gives me 4. So I'm going to add 4, and that makes my perfect square. All right? It's just a lot of steps, but you can do it. Square root of 25. Oh, goodness. Excuse me. Square root of 25 is 5. All right. Taking our middle term, 110 divided by 2 is 55. 55 divided by 5 is 11. And then 11 squared, which I just said above, and hopefully you remembered, is 121. So plus 121. Okay. I'm going to do the next one. Take the square root of 64. It's 8. I'm reserving that for later. Negative 144 divided by 2 gives me negative 72. Negative 72 divided by 8 gives me negative 9. Negative 9 squared is 81. I'm going to add 81 to my equation to make it a perfect square. Oh, I am very sorry. It also then asks us to write this in factored form. So you might need more space than this to actually do all of that. I would recommend doing it on another piece of paper. But all this little side work that we had to do. But I can rewrite this then as 3x squared, or 3x plus 7. Okay? 7x plus 2. 5x plus 11. Don't forget your squared like I did. Okay? And then 8x plus 9. So I want you to try the last one, e, by yourself. Take the square root of 4, divide 24 divided by 2 first, then 2 divided by that circled number, and then square it. So you make yourself a perfect square. All right, so you are responsible for doing E on your own. If you need help or you want me to check it, just text me and ask me. 4a, find the value of c to make the expression a perfect square, then write an equivalent expression in factored form. Guess what? That's the same as what we just did above here. Okay, so square root of 4 is 2. Save that for later. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. So I'm going to add 1 to this to make it a perfect square. Factored form is going to be 2x plus 1 squared. Okay, let's try it with this one. Square root of 25 is 5. Save that for later. 30 divided by 2 is 15. 15 divided by 5 is 3. And 3 squared is 9. So I'm going to add 9. So this would be then 5x plus 3 squared. Okay, again, square root of 25 is 5. Square root of 9 is 3. Oh, and actually, I want this to be minus because I want to have a negative middle term, a negative linear term. All right, number B, solve each equation by completing the square. So we've added a layer of complexity because now I have this 3 over here. Don't worry about it. We're just going to save it over there for later, okay? So let's take the square root of 4, which is 2. Save that for later. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. So I'm adding 1 to both sides. 4x squared plus 4x plus 1 equals 3 plus 1. I'm going to circle that because that 1 is important. That's what I'm using to complete the square. So now I'm going to write this as a perfect square. 2x, because 4x squared, the square root of that is 2x. Square root of 1 is 1 squared equals 4. Now I need to take the square root of both sides. We'll get 2x plus 1 equals 2, and 2x plus 1 equals negative 2. I'm going to ask that you continue to solve these and solve for x, please. Let's look at the next one. So again, take the square root of 25, save it for later. It's 5, okay? So I'm going to do negative 30 divided by 2 is negative 15. Negative 15 divided by 5 is negative 3. Negative 3 squared is 9. I'm going to add 9. Now, notice here that what I didn't do is move this 8 over here, so I should have done that first. This would be 25x squared minus 30x equals negative 8. And now my magic number is 9, so I'm going to add 9 to both sides. This now is a perfect square. I'm going to rewrite it as a perfect square. 5x plus 3. And then on this side, negative 8 plus 9 is 1, which is a perfect square. That's beautiful. So now I can take the square root of both sides, and I can rewrite this as 5x plus 3 equals 1, or 5x plus 3 equals negative 1. And solve. So again, you solve for x here and tell me what x should equal. All right, number 5, it says for function f, decide if the equation has 0, 1, or 2 solutions and explain how you know. So A is crossing the x-axis twice, so this has 2 solutions. B is touching the x-axis 1 time, so this has 1 solution. C is not touching this at all, so this has 0 solutions. And D is upside down, but it is still crossing the x-axis in 2 places. So this has 2 solutions. All right. E is touching this in 1 place. So this is 1 solution. And then F is upside down again, but it is not touching the x-axis at all. So this is no solutions. All right. Our last piece is to practice some more solving of equations. Now, for number 6, I don't care how you solve it. You can solve it using completing the square, or you can solve it using factoring. I want you to decide in this situation what you think is best. I will model with this first one. So first of all, I have 7p over on this side. What? I don't want that, right? So I'm going to rewrite this as p squared. I'm going to subtract 7p from both sides. 7p minus 7p is 0, so that new side will be 0 now, which I like. All right, now looking at this, I know 2 factors that give me positive 10 are negative 5 and negative 2. And when I add those together, I get negative 7. So this one is going to be easiest by factoring because I can do p minus 5 and p minus 2. And now I can solve p equals 5, p equals 2. Those are my 2 options. Okay? So in that case, I didn't need to complete the square. That wasn't what was easiest. Can I complete the square? Yes, but 7p is a linear term. If I divide that in 2, I'm going to get a fraction, right? Here, I can rewrite this. Let's go ahead and rewrite this. X squared plus 11x plus 24 equals 0. Can you think of two numbers that multiply to give us 24 and add to equal give us 11? If you can, then you should factor. If you can't, then move that 24 back over to the side and complete the square. But notice you have an 11x. It's not a nice even number. It doesn't divide by 2 nicely. Just saying. All right. And then last but not least, this one right here, sorry, second to last but not least, you should factor or multiply first. So y squared plus 6y plus 2y plus 12 equals -3. Y squared plus 8y plus 12 equals -3. Again, here, you can factor or you can complete the square. I don't care which one. If you're still struggling to complete the square for this one, I would try completing the square. You can factor this one. I'll just tell you, you can factor it, but I would suggest that you complete the square for this one, just so you practice doing it because it has nice even numbers. Lastly, number 7 says, which function could represent the height in meters of an object thrown upwards from a height of 25 meters above the ground t seconds after being launched? So this is a review. All right, so if the object is thrown upwards and then comes back down, right, from a height of 25 meters above the ground, we know that our constant there is going to be 25. So that means it can't be A and it can't be C because the constant here is 50, right? So the constant here is 25 and the constant here is 25. So the question is, does this have a linear term or not? Well, it says it is thrown upwards. If it is thrown upwards and not just dropped to the ground, then it has to have a velocity. And so D is our best answer because B would be what would happen if we brought it up to 25 feet and I just dropped it, right? I just whoop, maybe it would go like that. It would still have a curve to it, but it wouldn't go up and then back down. But this is saying it's thrown up and then it comes back down. Okay, so we need to have that middle term. Alrighty, that is it for your homework today. Your code word for today is, is expo, like an expo marker. It's your code word for today. If you have any questions or you need help, please let me know. Please ask. I will get on a Teams call with you. I will text you. I will help you. But don't suffer alone. You can ask me for help. Happy homeworking, and I'll see you tomorrow.